Good day. My name is Graham. I want to explain to people, especially young people, who've just started out in the workplace, if they can get a job in Australia, how to survive through climate change. Now, it will not be climate change itself that shall become a problem for young people. It will be the economic damage done by various institutions and governments and political parties and media to the economy in the agenda they have to make it very, very difficult to invest in Australia in productive employment because of what they're doing to the price of electricity alone, and the billions and billions of dollars they're wasting on that, on wind and solar, in the way they're doing it, which is billions and billions of dollars taken out of the economy that could be used to develop the country and in useful employment. So the difficult people will have in getting through a climate change in Australia, if any, or whatever it means, we can't quite tell, will be the economic damage done to the country by the people, make it difficult for people to get through the normal daily or lifelong activity of raising a family, buying a house, and all those things. We're going to become very difficult for people, not because of climate change. Climate change, we are born into the time we adapt through. The climate always change. It's sort of a strange thing to tell people that this is a climate change, if it's happening, is an unusual event. If no one had mentioned it, no one would be any the wiser. You get floods, fire and drought in Australia. It's been happening for such a long time. It's just a normal part of the climate and weather we have here. The point is, the people involved in telling children to fear this thing are then creating a real dilemma for the young people, how to survive economically and financially through the period of massive stagnation in investment in Australia, which involves the Greens, the Labour, the Liberal Party, the Nationals, and all the major corporate parties are intrinsically involved together in making it more and more difficult for younger people, especially in regions and different places, to get a job. Nonetheless, there are jobs available. So my advice to all young people is this: if you're just coming out of university, or you don't bother going to university, get yourself a job that pays as much as you can, the easiest to learn, and it pays financially, pays the most. That's number one. Don't worry about the status of the job. Don't look at if a job goes for 10 years, if you think I can get this job for 10 years, go for that sort of. If it's a job that robots can't do, artificial intelligence can't do, look at those jobs. They will pay well. More and more young people do not want those sorts of jobs. They want jobs which involve just sort of tweeting and hanging around the office and being politically correct. Now, if you look at the employment situation for your own self-preservation and the development of your own economic future and financial security in the future, this is the most important thing to think of, not climate change. What I would suggest to people, if you're starting out in the workforce, get the best possible paying job in the building game or wherever it is, it doesn't matter. And if you're a boy, make sure you find a lady or a girl, if a boy, that is in agreement with you before you get involved in a relationship, is in agreement with you in total with the following: that you will save all you can. You stay with parents if you have to. You'll live in the cheapest flat you can possibly afford. You'll live as frugally as possible. You'll be stoics like people were in the 50s. You'll do without. You'll do away with the iPhones and all the expenses you can. If you're in smart, because these things are dangerous. The iPhones and 5G network is a microwaves saturation of society, and not very healthy for society as a whole. And you don't need, if you can do without them, just get a small phone, a cheap phone, and just communicate, or don't bother at all. But for the next 10 years till 2030, if you can save every particle of income that you can, just do without. Everything you can cross off that you don't need for your survival, from day-to-day survival, you cross off. I don't need it, do without it. People lived quite happily without all the stuff years ago, and we're quite happy with it. People in the 50s did not know they were poor. without the things they have. They just live the life they had, they got on with it, enjoy. As long as you're enjoying yourself and you're happy in your family and household situation, you do not need all those things, because you can entertain yourself with reading, watching movies on YouTube and stuff like that without too much cost to yourself. Now, and by doing things like washing by hand, learning to cook cheaply and well and intelligently and stuff like that, will add to your health and cut down your power bills. So the more money you cut down on power bills, the more money you get to yourself, and the less money you're subsidising all these wealthy rip-off merchants who are involved with the power companies, who are basically out there to destroy the economy and make themselves wealthy and impoverish people at the same time. That's what electricity is doing at the moment. Or instead of being utilitarian for the people, it's just paid into the kind of socialist corporate system and making the bankers and the politicians and all that wealthy at the expense of society. So if you remember that and you save as hard as you can till you're 30, you just put everything away. If you live with your parents, good. If you be a good person, live with your parents, they can put up with you because you're useful around the house, not a nuisance. Mum will keep cooking meals for you. She'll be happy to do so, because mums like doing that. As long as you pay your way and don't bludge off your parents. Then you save all you can until you're 30. You save till 2030, sorry. You save every cent you can. Just put it in some simple account. No fancy investments. Stay away from all the fancy investments, because the share market is now on a great flux. It's really in a massive uncertainty, apart from a few basic blue ribbon stocks will be reasonably well. But other than that, the share market is in great risk at the moment because of what's happening with the rest of the economy and the value of Australian currency at the moment. So if you're smart, you'll get the best job which pays you the most money the soonest. You'll put up with all the bullshit and everything and just keep doing it for the next 10 years to 2030, saving everything you can. Then you'll have a fantastic foundation. You won't be in debt for a house. You'll be free of debt. You have a nice lump sum of money that then you can choose. Make sure the government can't touch it, because these people are into stealing your money if they can get away with it. They're not on your side. The people representing Australia are not representing the people. They represent the corporations, the banks, the financiers and the new world order if they can get away with it. But I'm saying, to survive through this series of change we're going through, in regards to AI will affect us, and so will robotic employment. If you look at that and look together and work out intelligently and practically and rationally what is the best way to accumulate the most cash, money or gold. If you can hold the gold in some sort of place like a safe deposit box or whatever it is, what's stable, that will give you by the 2030 as much as possible you can save. That will give you an advantage for the rest of your life. You'll have a nest egg, you will have security, and you will be then in the habit of living in this way, and instead of frivolously, you'll still enjoy yourself, and by the time you're 50 or 60, then you'll really be able to enjoy yourself, because you will not have had the debt that you would have had otherwise. Get into housing and stuff which is so precarious, such a con, such a stage managed affair to make sure people become debt slaves in Australia. Do not fall into the trap that these politicians are setting by pretending to be for the people, but what they've done with electricity in Australia, regardless of their excuse, which is climate change, it's just an excuse, because there's other ways of doing that which they don't like our conversation on, because their agenda is to create debt slaves in Australia for the majority of the people that they can, and this way you survive through this change. You survive personally and individually, and if you've got a damn good couple, if you're a really strong stoic couple, then your moral principles will pass on to your children or grandchildren, and then you build up a family. That is your true wealth. You'll build up a family into the future, and then your genes, your genetic capital is protected into the future. Anyway, my name's Graham, and that's an evolutionary economist way of advising the young people to go about building their wealth and capital in the next 10 years or so. Stay frivolous, be stoic, learn to cook meals with freshest and best food you can. That's the most important thing you can do. Cut down all the things you don't need. Now, if you don't need a washing machine, I haven't had one for years. Don't need a washing machine, don't need all that expensive stuff. Cut them back, because that way you can get your electricity bill down to about $4 or $5 a day. And I don't have solar panels. They're another sort of a con. And the way they are, I can get my electricity bill down to about $4 a day without solar panels, because, well, I was brought up in the 50s, we live frugally, it's normal for me, and I sort of enjoy my life anyway, because I don't have all this massive amount of debt hanging over my head, which is a sort of freedom in itself. Anyway, freedom is most important, and freedom from debt, as we were taught by my parents and grandparents, is the best way to live, regardless of your status or what your ambitions are or whatever. That is the best way to be. But if you can learn to go through life like that, not only can you build a massive amount of wealth, but you won't have to bother ever being afraid of the banker. No one is your master, in other words. You are controlling your life. Whereas it is with this corporate system and the way it is now, the politicians and whoever's behind this, they want to control you, or they're enslaving society into a massive endless debt, which is the agenda. Bye.